Okay, the next topic is also related to what we already covered. So we said that if the data follows normal distribution, or somehow we can know the data follows normal distribution, what can we do about it? What is the benefit?
Predict.
Predict about what? The future data. Okay, or what is the term used? Huh? About which data? He's saying future data. Population. Okay. The data which is not tested, basically. Okay. So it could be future or it could be other values which we did not use. Okay. So another thing which is related to that is hypothesis testing. So we just did it. So central limit theorem and so on and so forth. Okay. So the logic behind hypothesis testing is that you make a claim about the population using the sample, but that claim also needs to be checked. We are saying it follows normal distribution. Something may have happened. Maybe you made a mistake. Maybe your data is very special. It has never been tested before. Normal distribution is coming from decades ago. Maybe you found something new which they did not know. The data does not follow normal distribution. Maybe it's a new type of data. Or you did something wrong with your calculation, you did something wrong with your measurements. So you saying that the data follows normal distribution, so this is equal to this and this is equal to this, it's not enough. Okay. And in some cases, you are making a claim about the change in the data. You're not making a claim about the data itself. Maybe the data claim of the data is correct. Okay. I have concrete samples, they follow normal distribution. Correct. And now I have made a change in the concrete samples. And my claim is about the change, not the sample itself, what this change is doing. Okay. So checking of these claims is what we call as hypothesis testing. Okay. So you are making an assumption, you are making a claim, you are making or you are predicting something for the future. You are predicting something for the population. Okay. So checking if your claim, if your assumption, if your prediction is correct, is called as hypothesis testing. Okay. In hypothesis testing, there are always two claims. There are always two hypotheses. One is called as null hypothesis, and the other one is called as alternate hypothesis. There is null and there is alternate. Okay. They wrote that the claim is true. This depends on cases. When we say the null hypothesis is about being the claim true. Okay. So null hypothesis is always very equal to. Null hypothesis is always with the equal to. Okay. So for example, this data and this data, you are claiming they are equal. This is what? Null hypothesis. Or this data has mean equal to this. We are not comparing between the data sets, we are comparing data set with the value. This is also what? Null. Okay. So null is always the hypothesis which has the equal to rule. Okay, the equal to check. And the other one is what? And what are we calling it? Alternate. Okay. Anything will not equal. It could be greater than, it could be less than, what doesn't matter. Okay, but null is always associated with equal to, and they are calling it as true. Okay. The thing is that we need a strong enough evidence to prove the hypothesis. We need a strong enough evidence to prove the hypothesis. Okay, so I'll show you something on graphic. Okay, which unfortunately I taught you, right? Okay. Before sample, after sample. If I check these two are equal, this is null hypothesis. This is null hypothesis, right?
Yes.
And if they are not equal, this is alternate hypothesis. Do they look equal? Okay.
Close to each other.
Close to each other, right? But is this evidence enough to prove the hypothesis? Why?
Because maybe by accident.
Yeah, because it's a sample, right? Okay. So hypothesis testing should also take into account what is happening in the rest of the population. Okay. So the idea behind the null hypothesis is, the core logic is one of contradiction and falsification. Okay, so we are trying to prove something. Like the same thing which you do in the code. Okay, you make a claim and you are trying to prove it is true or not. And the rule is it is innocent until proven guilty. Innocent is what? A true one. Until you can prove it is not equal, it is what is the default? Default is equal. Okay, so innocent is the default, right? So here null means innocent. Okay, so the assumption is that whatever you are comparing is by default equal. Okay, and this is why we assign it to the null hypothesis. So null hypothesis is always there. Your data will provide the evidence which you can use for falsifying your claim. Okay, so there's the claim, and we are trying to go against it. We are the lawyer on the other side, basically. Okay, so we only reject the null hypothesis or the innocence if the evidence is beyond doubt. Same thing with this court language. Okay, innocent until proven guilty, and evidence is beyond reasonable doubt. So if you do something, like kill me or something, okay, this will apply to you. You go to the court. But then I'm innocent until you prove I am guilty. Until you prove that I really killed this guy. Okay, and whatever evidence you are providing should be beyond reasonable doubt. Okay, like there is yeah. First of all, they are saying that the evidence should be beyond reasonable doubt. So first of all, they are saying that there should be an evidence, and the evidence should be strong enough that a reasonable doubt cannot be there. Okay, so for example, I showed you the two values, 64, 65, and something. Okay, 65 and 63. So, like you said, that there is an evidence, right? That there's a change. There's an evidence. Okay, but that evidence is based upon 50, 65. Okay, your actual population is a very large one. Okay, so this evidence is not beyond reasonable doubt. Okay, so first of all, to prove the hypothesis, there should be an evidence. It's not based upon opinion. Okay, like you were saying, it's very close. Somebody else may come and say, no, it's 2 miles per hour. This is a lot. Okay, so it's not based upon opinion. It's based upon numbers. Okay, and those numbers should indicate the doubt to a very high value. Okay, to a very high value, but it cannot be perfect, obviously. Going back to the same concept, 95%. Okay, so we are trying to prove it up to how much? 95%. There is still how much doubt remaining? 5%. So is 95% a reasonable value? Okay, but somebody says there's a 50-50 chance.
Not too much.
No, it's not reasonable, right? Okay, so and so this is the reasonableness is proven or is calculated in terms of its probability. whatever number you are giving me, what is its confidence level? What is its probability? Probability is very high, it's good enough. It's very low, not good enough. Okay, so the status quo means null hypothesis, meaning the equal to, meaning the innocence, meaning the true hypothesis. Okay, which basically says there is no effect of whatever you have done, but there is no difference in between one data set and the other. Okay, and usually, for example, the new mean is equal to the old mean. The mean is equal to 40 megapascal. Okay, something like this. And the alternate hypothesis will be okay, not equal. It's not equal. Okay. Okay. Now here, this is what we call as a two-tailed test. Two-tailed. Why? Because not equal to mean what? Higher, lower. Okay. And on any side not equal, right? And then on any one side it's not equal.
Yes.
Here, this is what we call as one-tailed test.
Same.
Yeah. Because now we are going in one side. Okay. In this case, that we are talking about 95%, right? So remaining is 5%. That remaining can be this side or this side. But here, that remaining has to be on one side. Okay. So this is the difference between the two-tailed test and the one-tailed test. Okay. This is like the technical language. Okay. So you say we accept null hypothesis or we reject null hypothesis. When we accept null hypothesis, it means null alternate is rejected. Okay. If I reject null hypothesis, I say alternate is accepted. Got it? There are no two ways. Only one. Okay. Either you accept null hypothesis or you reject null hypothesis. The other one is vice versa. Okay. By default. Okay. So our supplier claims that the rebar has mean yield strength of 500 megapascal. Okay. So this is the null hypothesis, right? Should be equal to 5. And you are skeptical. You think if it is more, it doesn't harm. He is claiming 500. If it is more than 500, it won't bother.
That's
If it is, that's not problem, right? So I'm now again going back to the court terminology. I'm the lawyer. I'm trying to prove he is false. Okay. So if he is false on the higher side, you say I'm doing you a favor, right? You shouldn't be after me. But if I'm wrong on the lower side, then there's a problem. So I'm trying to prove the lower hypothesis, the lower side. Okay, so one day. Okay. Okay. So p value, as I mentioned, the hypothesis is tested at a particular level of confidence, reasonable evidence. Okay. So that reasonableness is measured in terms of p value. Okay. So p value means the total probability of getting up to this value. Cumulative. P value is taken as cumulative. Okay, so it's not if I say 500, for example, checking 500 here, right? Okay, so I will not check the probability of exactly having 500. I check the probability of having 500 or 500. Okay, so it's cumulative. Okay, so p value is always cumulative. Okay, if the null hypothesis is true, so you set up a value of p that if I get up to this much, the total chances are up to this much, then I will accept. If the total chances are even less than this, I will not accept. Okay. And this is what we call as the significance level. The p value which you set. Now, when you test the hypothesis, you will get a p value. It could be very high, it could be very low. So p value is what you are getting. Significance level is the level at which you will accept. Getting my point? P value is what you are getting. Okay, whatever the value is, could be 95%, 90%, 80%, 60%. This is P value. Okay. Confidence level is the limit you are setting at the P level, P value on the P value. Okay. If I get this limit, I will accept it. Don't get this limit, I will reject it. Clear? Okay. So this is what they are saying. Okay. For example, if you if you set the confidence level or significance level for 5%. 5% means what? 95%. At 5%, I will accept the, at 5%, I will reject the null hypothesis. Okay. That means I'm still using 95%, but I'm looking at the other end. Okay. If I'm getting less than 5%, I will accept, and the evidence is supporting the alternate hypothesis and the other way around. Okay. So what they are saying here is, I'm looking at the other extreme. Okay. So if P value is 5% or less. Okay. That means the chances of not having this value.
Yes.
Okay. The chances of not having this value, okay, is 5% or less. Okay. So I will reject it.
Yes.
Because now less than 5%, it becomes a very, very small chance. Okay, so it's beyond reasonable evidence. Got my point?
Yes.
Okay, so less than 5%, I will reject it. Okay, because the chances of having this value are less than 5%. Otherwise, I will accept it. Okay, so yes.
Yeah. Yes. No.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, going back to the same thing, which I already mentioned. Our default is what? True, right? Null is true. Okay, null is true. So the alpha or the p value is telling you that the chances of default changing is less than 5%. So we will say default is not changing. You are getting the point? Okay. It's not saying that there is a 5% chance that H naught is true or H naught is not true. It is saying that somebody came and he told you that my name is so and so. So default is what? His name is this. Okay. Now we are looking for what is the chance that he is lying. Okay. So if the chance of him lying is less than 5%, I will accept what he is saying. The chance of him lying is less than 5%. I'll accept what he's saying. If the chance of him lying is more than 5%, I'll look for some other things. I cannot trust him, basically.
If it's less, we're rejecting the number.
Sorry?
Rejecting the first assumption we got right. No, if it's so we're assuming he's true. His name is
Yes. Yes.
Then why if it's less than 5%? Oh, so if we're assuming his name is true, if it's less than 5%, it's false. That's why we're rejecting the number.
Yeah.
Because our hypothesis was that his name is not correct, right?
Our hypothesis default is that he is true.
Is true.
He is true.
If our hypothesis is less than 5%, that's why we're rejecting. No, it's true.
One second.
Because if less than 5%, we are rejecting them.
If it is less than 5%, we are rejecting the hypothesis. Yes, the value is very high. Yes.
So this means our assumption that he is true, but our assumption is less than 5% probability. That's why we're rejecting.
Yes. Okay. So it's the assumption that what he is saying is not. Yeah. The chance of our assumption being wrong is less than 5%.
Our assumption
Assumption is he is
in the sense of.
he is true. Our assumption he is true.
Okay,
Now the chance of this assumption is correct is less than 5%.
so he is false, so that's the assumption.
Assumption is rejected.
The chance of the assumption is less than. Okay.
Okay.
Yes.
H naught was default true.
Yes,
So until you get the chance of H naught up to 5% or more than 5%, we will keep it. But if it gets even less than 5%,
so we will reject.
we reject it. Okay. Okay. This is the last thing we will do. After this is a code. Don't know what happens to the code. So we have two types of errors. One is called type 1 error, type 2 error. Very easy, right? Type 1 error, type 2 error. One is called alpha, the other one is called beta. Alpha is false positive, beta is false negative. Okay. False means it's not true, right? Okay. What is not true? Positive is not true. Hmm?
So that is.
Don't confuse it with that. Okay. So for example, you are rejecting H naught. Okay. When it is actually true. Okay. So you are taking it false. Okay. But it was actually true. Okay. And so concluding a new material is stronger when it is not. Okay. So you rejected the null hypothesis. You assume that the old one and the new one are not equal, but actually they were equal. Okay, so you rejected the null hypothesis when they were actually equal. Okay, and the type 2 error is false negative. So it was actually you rejected, sorry, you accepted the null hypothesis when you actually rejected it, when you should have rejected it. Okay, so meaning that you reject null hypothesis when you should have accepted. This is what the first step. Rejecting actual was acceptance. You rejected actual was acceptance. Okay. This is one type of error. We call it false positive. Okay. So the actual was positive. The actual was, but you falsely rejected. Okay. And the second one is the other way around. Yeah. Yeah. So it was actually negative, but by error you accept. Okay. So this is telling you what it actually was, and this is telling you what you actually did. So it was actually positive, and you rejected it. Here it was actually false, and you actually accepted it. Got my point?
Yeah.
Okay. So focus on this one. Okay. Here it is saying it was actually this. You did the other way. It was actually not true, and you did the other one. Okay. So, for example, you made some improvement in the construction method, and you missed the change because of that construction method. That will be false negative. Okay. So there's always a trade-off between the two errors. For example, when you are doing the foundation design, if you assume that the soil is stronger than what it actually is, okay, so the soil is not strong. You assume it is strong. Okay, so you are in the type 1 error. Okay, it was actually positive, it was actually same, not stronger, same, but you assume it was stronger, and when you will assume it is stronger, you will make a footing smaller. So your building can collapse.
Yeah.
Okay, because you overestimated.
Yes.
Overestimated. And the second one is type 2 error. You assume that the soil is weak. Right?
Yeah.
When it was actually stronger. Okay, you assume the soil is weak. So you assume on the other side now. So now you will do your what? You will make the design stronger. You will over design. You will have more extra cost. Okay. So if you yeah, what we do is then we focus on the first type, because in the second type you're on the safer side. Okay, in this case, you will, yeah, you will over design, but you will try to avoid the collapse. Okay, but you cannot always consider it to be the lowest. Because if you are catering for this one, if you are worried about this one, what you will do, you will assume the strength to be lower, right?
Yeah.
If you are worried about that, I will assume it to be too strong while it is weak. Okay. So you will assume it lower and lower and lower. But while you are making it lower and lower and lower, you are increasing the cost of the design. Okay. So I cannot say my soil is completely useless and it is the weakest soil in the whole world.
So we take that.
Yeah. Okay. So you have to keep a percentage of both types of factors. Yeah. So the point is you cannot make any of them zero. Okay. So for example, if I take the highest possible value for the soil. Okay. I take the highest possible value of the soil. I am making type 2 error 0.
I'm assuming it's not weak.
Huh?
I'm assuming it's not weak.
It's not weak at all. It's not weak compared to anything. So type 2 error will become 0. Okay. So this will never happen then. If I take the most highest value, this will never happen. Okay. Because you are saying that whatever value you give me, it's not equal to that value. It's higher than that value. Okay. So this error becomes 0. Okay. But at the same time, you are increasing this error. Okay. Because now there is a very high chance that it is actually equal to some value, and you are saying no, it's not equal to any value. It's higher than whatever value we give. Okay. So both these errors have to be considered. You have to see maybe they are equal, and I'm assuming it to be not equal. And you have to also consider that they are actually not equal, and I may assume it to be equal to something. Okay. So both type 1 error and type 2 error have to be considered, and you cannot make any of them equal to 0. Okay. And this is, as you can see, is very important for the experimental work. If your research goes into experimental work, you have to consider both types of errors. Okay.